Welcome to Chapter Sass, the podcast where we deep dive into the books that make you blush, gasp, and maybe even think a little. I'm your host, Season, and with every book, I'll be joined with a new co-host with their own hot take. From spicy romances to messy love triangles and all the glorious chaos in between, we're here with a fresh perspective to unpack the stories we love, question what we think we know, and explore how the book speaks to us. Things might even get a little sassy. This episode is rated mature and will contain spoilers. Let's get into the first chapter. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give a quick little reminder that in last week's podcast episode, I did explain that we were having so much fun, Danielle and I, that we just had so much to say that our episode ended up being 2 hours. And so I get it. No one wants to listen to a 2-hour episode. So I kind of cut that episode in half. Last episode kind of ended abruptly. This one kind of just starts. We don't go into our whole, what are you drinking? Tell us a little bit about yourself. At the end of this, we do have our sassy topic. And as a reminder, we will always have a sassy topic at the end of every episode. Just unfortunately, when I cut it in half, we couldn't do that. Let's get into the next chapter, everyone. We're reading Blood of Hercules. Thanks. Bye. Chapter 6 is called Healing, and this is an Alexis chapter. So Alexis awakens and she finds herself in a huge bed with silk sheets, a grand, beautiful ceiling, and these are luxuries she's never experienced before. So she's just what's going on? And then Petro comes in with the doctors, and they're trying to give her medicine, and she's refusing because she doesn't trust anyone. And honestly, girl, fair. You literally just got almost killed. I don't know if I'd be trusting anyone to put medicine in my mouth either. Nyx is with her, so they were able to teleport Nyx as well. And no one, including the powerful Spartans, even knows she's there. So now I'm starting to think, at first I did think, is Nyx her animal? But we find out in the next chapter, Nyx can't be her animal. So I'm but other things started clicking in my head with this. I was like, Nyx is clearly someone very powerful. So the doctors do a scan of her body and find out most of her body's broken and fractured. And Petro's pissed. He's like, so you gave me a weak initiate? What the fuck? He's again, he has a means to an end, and right now he's you're not gonna make it. So he's very turned off by her. He has nothing positive to say about Alexis.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna argue it's not that he's turned off by her. It's that he's irritated that his ability to become a general has now gotten that much harder.
I have to agree with that statement. I agree. He's not turned off for her because I actually think he's actually very sweet to her, even though he's mean. I think he's given many times that he's very sweet to her.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually a sweetheart at heart.
Yeah. She's just the unfortunate vessel of his desire to be a general.
Yes.
And the more he perceives her as making it harder for him to get there, the more frustrated he gets. I don't think it has anything to actually do with her.
Agreed. And so Patroclus and Achilles use sign language to communicate because muzzle is on Achilles, and they don't know that Alexis knows how to sign language, but she keeps that secret. She's like, I'm not going to tell anyone. She's just but pretty much they sign that they're going to kill the doctors because they don't want the doctors to tell anybody else how weak Alexis is because it's going to make her a target. And again, to your point, doesn't justify their means to an end. Also, these animals at some point are going to get important. I don't know how important they're going to be, but the jaguar and the wolf are just chilling in this room. And I was wondering, could the jaguars maybe and the wolf sense Nyx? Because they're always growling at her, but who knows? I don't know. Speculation right now. So the doctors pretty much have to wrap Alexis's right forearm, both her shoulders, her left femurs, 3 toes, 8 fingers, her head. And I'm just damn, working.
Her body. They wrap her body.
And the doctors are she's very weak and she needs to heal. So for the next week, she's just in and out of consciousness. She doesn't know what's going on. She remembers talking to Nyx, but they're essentially just giving her medicine. They need her to sleep so she can heal. And out of nowhere, she remembers talking to Nyx about Medusa. And Medusa's just randomly bought in. And I'm they keep just mentioning Medusa. And I was so Medusa has to be someone important. Medusa, snakes, She has a goddamn snake following her around.
Mhm.
Um, so they're talking about how why Medusa's in the underworld, and Nyx doesn't believe that she's in the underworld for the reason that everyone thinks. They're like that's not true. So it's like, Nyx is very protective of Medusa. Also, like there's more to that story there. Um, and then and then she goes on again because she's like hallucinating. She's like in and out of delirium throughout this whole week. She sees death, and death hovers over her with a hand uh being aggressive, like at her ankle. He has pale skin, he has blood red eyes, and he's watching her without blinking. There's like a sensation of intriguing curiosity fill his chest. But this death, quote unquote death, takes care of her and has a raspy voice. So from time to time, she starts hearing things like, she'll perform from us. We'll make sure she does. And then she like just thinks of Charlie because like Charlie's by himself, but like she's hearing certain things come back and forth. Excuse me. And then finally Alexis wakes up. It's been a week and Petro's there. Petro's clearly being portrayed as like a short-tempered asshole. But when he has the doctors come in to like remove her bandages, Alexis doesn't want people to like see her body. So she like clings to her, she's like half naked or essentially naked, and she like clings to her sheet. And she's like, no. And so Petro like looks at her and then kicks everyone out except for the female doctor. He threatens the female doctor. And he's like, if you hurt her, I will kill you, essentially. Like, there's no other thing else. But to me, this is like he's being an asshole for a show slash means a means to an end. Like he doesn't want anything actually bad to come to Alexis, right? Like he's respecting her boundaries. Because he respects her boundaries again later because he tells her the reason why she's throwing her bloody sheets is because he didn't want to like clean her and like take away her ability to say to give consent.
Yeah. But also, he's respecting her boundaries because then we later get to set up the idea that he's somebody that you should want to be with. Like,
Oh, 1000%. They portray him to be.
you gotta keep in mind, I'm listening to this like waiting for the get down, right? So I'm picking up on all these little clues, like the bit after like after the first like fight, right? And Alexis is describing how like she has no clothes and like her lips are out and she's like both lips. I'm like,
Yeah,
girl, we knew you meant your vagina. Like, come on now.
she
Right.
must
And so
be
there's
the
like
nipple and the vagina or something.
right. And then there's these bits in these interactions where as readers or the people absorbing this media
Mhm.
were being given the impression that this character is doing these things of like respecting her boundaries or whatever. And I think in some ways that's easy for us to interpret it that way, right? Because it's pretty obvious.
Mhm.
But we also have to keep in mind that these the ability of these guys to become a general is hinged on her.
Yeah, that is true.
So they eventually have to adapt some sort of mindset of like what is going to make this individual successful, right?
That's
And
okay,
sure,
fair.
it might be respecting their boundaries or whatever, right? But to me, part of that is also like, if this individual is going to like cause a fit and be fussy and we're not going to be able to get doctors to see them, I'm in a time crunch here. I got to
Mhm.
get you up to speed so that I can become a general.
Yeah,
So if I'm going to assess that you're only comfortable with the female doctor, great, let's go. Right? Like,
that's fair.
we need to make progress here. You can't be delaying me because you have whatever boundaries,
You
right?
have you have certain boundaries. But in this chapter, we find out a few things. So the reason why she doesn't want people to see her body, kind of because she has scars. So we find out that Charlie's entire back was like mutilated. I can't even say that word. And he has a whole bunch of scar tissue. That's all we get. So it's just curious to see because remember, Charlie came to them when he was 8, 9.
Mhm.
He has colored eyes, so we know something happened to him, but we don't know what. I'm pretty sure later on we'll find out. But like Charlie's had a life before he even got here. Then she has a whole bunch of other scars. I think the most important scar, though, because they did mention this about twice before, is that she's had this scar across her sternum since she was a baby. I think somehow that's going to be related to like her born, who her parents are,
Mhm.
something, but, like, because they've mentioned the scar more than once, so, like, all the other scars I don't think are as important, but I think the scar that she has, like, on her stomach from when she was a baby, I think that one's important.
Though the ones that she as a character is most focused on are the ones on her wrists. She's
Yes.
always talking about the hair ties on her wrists, right? Because those are the most visible to the world around
Y
you.
you would think just some long sleeves will cover that up too, but she does have to wear tons of hair ties. So while
Maybe
the
she doesn't
fem
like fabric on her arms.
That's
She's got to
true.
do short sleeves and hair ties. Who knows?
So while the female doctor, like, removes her cast and, like, bandages, she just starts to, like, talk with Alexis. I would say more gossip than talk, but I do think we get some important things. So apparently, Achilles should have been sent to the underworld, but got the muzzle instead. So interesting. Petro took the Spartan oath to be the only one to remove Achilles' muzzle, if necessary, is pure insanity, according to the doctor, because everyone knows bad things happen to the Spartans who take oaths outside of marriage and animal bonding. And so now I'm like, there's no way. So at first, I thought the raspy voice she was hearing was Achilles. I was like, he's clearly taking off his muzzle when they're home alone. We find out
Mhm.
later that Achilles is not the raspy voice that Alexis was hearing. But originally I was like, oh, there's no way Petro's not taking off the muzzle while they're behind closed doors. So he's already broken this oath. So, like, how important is this quote unquote oath that this doctor is talking about? The doctor doesn't know that that's happening. And I mean, I don't know that it's happening either, but my assumption is if you're fucking each other and you're lovers, you're taking off the muzzle, like, behind closed doors, you know? But
Or
we'll,
not.
or not, or it's true, maybe. We'll see. Um, then the doctor goes and tells Alexis that the issue with the fertility amongst Olympian houses is like a lot, and the last, like, even if Olympian houses are having babies, the babies are becoming weak. Like, the last strong baby to be born was Pharaoh's, and everyone since then has been weaker than that. And now with this new marriage laws, it's going to fix the fertility issues because they're going to be able to give birth to strong babies, which would make them all the citizens of Sparta. So we get more information about, like, this marriage oath. So when they take this marriage oath at 26, every Spartan will take it except for the house leaders. There is a clause in here because the Thonics were only producing with Thonics. So now this is stated that, like, they're not just restricted from their own houses, like, they'll essentially be not required, I guess are required in quotes, but they will be expected the Thonics would be expected to mate with Olympian houses, therefore everyone will be strong. But what we learn later is that, like, if the Thonic houses do mate with, like, the Olympian houses, it's supposed to make them weaker because it dilutes their, like, blood or power that they have.
They're evil. It
They're
dilutes
evil.
their
Yeah.
evil. Yeah.
So this is the Olympians' way of essentially controlling the Thonics. So it's just like dun 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 dun. So when the doctor is done, and leaves, Alexis tries to warn the doctor that, like, Petros and Achilles were, like, seeing that they're gonna kill her. The doctor pretty much brushes it off and says, like, she's crazy. She leaves, Petro and Achilles come in, and it's like new chapter because she's all alone with them. So now they're supposed to be strategizing. So this is still an Alexis chapter. And Petro and Achilles, like, order Alexis to bathe because they didn't bathe her. This is another time that they try to respect her boundaries. And so they were like, you've been in this bloody bed. You're a disgrace to any Olympian because they think she's a god of Zeus or a child of Zeus. Like, so they really do not like her at all. So she goes and takes the longest bath she's ever took, which is a luxury because she never has. She has, like, options, like multiple shampoo and conditioner options, and she's just, like, super excited. But then we find out in the shower that Nyx cannot be Alexis' animal protector because she's bonded to another, but the bond does not allow her to talk about the person directly, but she
Because it's
can,
Medusa.
yes, she can talk about the person indirectly. So now I'm thinking, hold on. I definitely think it's Medusa because Medusa's been mentioned like 4 times at this point out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
definitely think it's Medusa. I'm now starting to think Medusa is Alexis's mom because Nyx can only talk to people of her kind. So, like, who would be her kind? And, like, Medusa sent Nyx to go protect her child. Like, because she's 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 this, right? So this isn't her animal, but this is while it's not her bonded animal protector, she is in all cases and purposes being her bonded animal protector. It's like
Right.
unofficial. So I am like positive now that like Alexis is Medusa's daughter.
But this also plays into the fact that like Nyx doesn't do what Alexis says,
Yes, it's
right?
true. Yeah.
So Nyx does. We know now that Nyx is receiving instruction from someone else, right? And that's why Nyx doesn't do what. I mean, in some ways, we'll be like, okay, fine, I won't like bite your classmate and kill your
Yeah.
classmate for like being horny, like, right? Like that's pretty basic. But when it comes down to real, like, here's how we're navigating this world, Nyx really doesn't take instruction
That's true.
from
She does that.
Alexis. Like, yeah. So Nyx's instruction is coming from someone else, right? And then the other thing too that also kind of led me to Medusa is with the curly hair, the golden curly hair, everybody's just like, oh, you have hair like Zeus, you're the kid of Zeus. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay, but curly hair can also like mimic the idea of snake, right?
Makes
Like
yes.
snake,
Yeah.
right?
I
But
I
then I'm
definitely
like, ooh, is Zeus your daddy?
yeah, so I'm also thinking that like they think combining the bloodlines are gonna make them weak, but maybe it is gonna make them strong because maybe it is.
Yep.
My next theory is, and it's gonna sound so bad, because Persephone and Hades are supposed to have like this love that like no one else is supposed to do. But why even tell us that if it's not important? So I'm also thinking maybe Hades could be her dad. Because she's very powerful and we know she's very powerful. And they made a point to tell us that like they've sworn an oath to each other, they've done this, they've done this. I don't know, but I do think it's Zeus or Hades. Right now, I do think it's Zeus or Hades is her dad. It's one or the other. I don't
I
know
want
who.
it to be Zeus.
Me too, because I want
Team
Hades and
Zeus.
Persephone to have their whatever. But let me just see really quickly who is Medusa's parents.
Yeah, like
Uh
her mom is definitely Medusa. Like now that all these pieces are coming together. The other thing that I found interesting too, like especially like the hot goss with the doctor, is that was Alexis receiving a lot of information that we received in the setup of the story,
yes.
right? So we received that information in the setup, and Alexis is just moving along,
Mhm.
whatever, in the storyline. And that's really the first time that she gets that information, that
Yes.
she's getting the context as to what's going on in her own story.
Yes, because she mentions it before and now. She's like, "No, you just brought me here. I didn't know this initiation." Like she's literally like, "I'm just going with the flow. Like you're choosing my destiny for me. I have no idea what's going on." I agree.
Yeah.
It's us like telling the narrator what's going on because she literally doesn't know. So after she gets out of the shower, she like goes and like sunbathes in the sun, and the Crimson Duo, come and approach her. Excuse me, and they think she is the daughter of Zeus because of her golden hair and her eyes. Apparently, Zeus also has like a. They don't know that she's blind and she's keeping that a secret, and she's keeping the fact that she's have death a secret too. But they think these are all signs that she could be, Zeus's kid. They can't take a paternity test because her blood is too acidic.
Mhm.
So she's like, interesting that we don't get to know who anyone's baby daddy or mama is in this, but whatever. But I also just think it's so funny because our audience doesn't know who Gabby is, but you know who Gabby is. And I think it's so funny because when in this chapter, she was like, "Oh yeah, because everyone with blonde hair and like tan skin means you're the daughter of Zeus." And I'm like, the amount of people that confuse me and Gabby is ridiculous. And it's like because we're two light-skinned black girls with curly hair, we're not
You guys don't look alike
we
at
look
all.
nothing alike. But the amount of people, Danielle, who confuse me and Gabby is so sad.
Y'all don't even have the same curl pattern. Like,
I I am telling you, the amount of people who confuse me and Gabby is hilarious. Like, at this point, it's comical because of the amount of people that have confused us. But Gabby and I always joke that we're each other's alibi. God forbid if anything happens. So just
I'll
out there,
vouch for that. I'll buy into that. If that ever happens, I got your back.
thanks. So then the duo asks, like, what's your power? And she's like, I don't have any. And right now, Petro's pissed. He's like, they send me this weak ass girl who can't do this, and now she doesn't even have a power. Like, what the fuck? I need to become a general, and you're the furthest thing from me getting to be a general as
Yeah.
possible.
And again, that's not about her,
That is
right?
true.
Like if you are the person that that's being said about, yes, you're going to receive that as being about you. But none of his complaints are actually about her. They're all about how, like, now it's going to be harder for me to be a general.
That is true.
Everything that goes on up there with him is totally self-serving.
I agree. I do think he's nice though. I think he has certain qualities. I think whatever this means to, we don't know yet as a reader what this means to an end is, and I think he's so invested into what this means to an end is, like protecting whatever, that like it is making him seem more self-centered. But I really do think he is trying to like save the world in his way, because if the author told us anything, is that like what we think we know we don't. So while we keep saying the Thonics are evil, are they really evil? Or are they just being portrayed as evil? So it just makes me like question everything. But we find out that only women Thonics are heirs because half human, and this is why I think her dad is Zeus or Hades, is because I don't know if she could be a full-on mutt, because half human wouldn't be able to hold the Thonic power. Like if the female wouldn't be able to hold their power, it would rip them to shreds from the inside. Maybe her daddy is human, but I really think her dad might be maybe Zeus or Hades. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll find out.
She operates under the assumption that she doesn't have a power just because she doesn't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
And all of the times that we've seen some sort of like mystery or whatever, right, throughout the story thus far,
I
she
think
has
it's the
somehow
foaming of the
been
mouth.
involved in it, and she can't explain it.
Yes.
Right?
I think
So it's
anytime
almost like it's so powerful, she just like
Yeah.
she just leaves. She's just gone.
Yeah. I think right now, until she knows what her power is, I think anytime anyone foams at the mouth, that is her using her power, because every single time we know that she's used her power, she doesn't know, the person's foamed at the mouth. So I think right now, until she figures it out, we're going to know anytime someone foams at the mouth, she is somehow using her power. She doesn't know how she's using her power, but she's using her power.
Yes. And part of that too is because all of these incidences have been relayed to us from her point of view.
Yes. Reliably.
Right? Right. So we're seeing it all. It's all being explained to us as she sees it, and she sees it with a lot of confusion. Right? But then we get to chapter 10 and it's somebody else's point of view, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
We should get more people's point of view, because there are, I believe, 4 different narrators for this for the audiobook. So there will be more coming shortly. So Petrol's like, we don't even know how you're here, because again, you should also, Thodic heirs are treated like royalty. So, but again, Alexa's always been in pain. The Petrol's like, you're not gonna know what pain feels like, and girl's been in pain her whole life. But anyways, so they ask her if they know what the crucible is, and she clearly doesn't. So they give her a book to read, and they give her the book in Latin and in English. Turns out that the Sparta's divided into like one like super big mental test consisting of different like things that you have to do. Sleep deprivation. They have to like go through all these pains to prove that they are the elite of the elite, and they're going to do this at the Spartan War Academy, aka the Crucible. Then the book goes just into the importance of pain and suffering, and like dealing with hunger, how it can be like confusing, how like you rely on other like senses, or you do certain things if you are hungry or if you are sleep deprived. But again, this is Alexa's whole life. She barely eats. She says she doesn't really sleep. Like, she's about to thrive because this is what she's been doing for the last 19 years of her life. So she's been preparing, even though she doesn't know she's been preparing. And still they do, the duo think that she's lived like this cushy life. They don't realize that like she hasn't lived this cushy life and she hasn't told him yet. So we'll have to see. So as she goes to bed that night, this is when things start to happen. She's so innocent, she doesn't realize people are having sex next door to her. But as she goes to bed that night, she hears a strange creaking sound coming from the other side of the bed, some masculine groaning. She's just like not sure what's going on, but clearly it's the duo getting it on. I also think the fact that the duo are very close in proximity of her, I think she might be joining a little threesome at some point, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see, maybe. But I do think that's what's going to happen. So it's the next morning, and Petrol gives her more information on books, and it covers like the discipline, like the different classes she's going to have to go through the crucible. So the first one is the Thagoran class, which is like advanced math coupled with philosophy. The second is the lost classical lore, which is just like focuses on history and Latin. The third is discipline and power, which they'll use to cover like their different powers, the Spartan oath, mental shielding, leaping. And four is more of a challenge versus a class, but it's when they'll discover that they'll have an animal protector. Then Alexis asks, like, well, what's the strategy? Because Hades or Zeus or Hades said, like, we're going to talk about strategy. And pretty much the duo are like, we'll call strategy after you survive the next 2 weeks because we don't even think you're going to make it and we're not going to waste our time on you. And she's like taking it back and she's like, this is my life. Like, that is at stake. And Petrol goes, no, like the world is at stake and you don't realize it. So your life means nothing. So this is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, he's doing it for a means to an end, but if he's trying to save more people, like I do think he's gonna be the good guy. Like he's being portrayed as an asshole, but I don't think he's really gonna be an asshole.
Mm, he's a pseudo good guy. He's
Okay.
the only one who up to this point has any sense of like loose decency, right? So it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, this dude's gonna be the good guy.
No, I think he's the morally gray man. Like, so in our fantasy books, whatever, morally gray men are assholes, but they're only not assholes to, like the person that they're there to protect or love. Like that is the morally gray character. He's just one.
Yeah, but you're still a fucking asshole.
Oh, agreed. Red flags.
But here's the thing, right? There are characters like that in all sorts of stories, right? Think about like Mr. Big in Sex and the City, right? Quintessential. He is that quintessential dude. And right, we all celebrate when like that guy like eventually figures it out and get it all together and like the story works out well or whatever, but it's like that guy's still a dick. That guy would still be in the Epstein files.
Yes.
Like, let's be real, y'all. Somebody can have little bits of respect around a thing that makes us go, oh, but like, nah. Keep your head in the game. This dude, not a good dude. Not a good dude.
We'll see. We'll see. So it's like the next day, and Petrol gives Alexis an exercise toga without shoes. She's not allowed to wear shoes. And then the duo porter her to the Coliseum, and the Crucible / their like Spartan War Academy has begun. Next chapter. So they're in like this cave. I love how these chapters just like end. She's like, oh, and I'm gonna die. Next chapter. Like,
yeah.
They just like end like that. So now they're the academy, like their classes where they're gonna be living for these next 2 weeks. They're pretty much in a cave. And she's there with the other initiates, and they're getting yelled by one of their many generals. Pretty much how you would envision a boot camp right now, that's what's going on. So they're just like getting yelled at, they're being told they're nothing. But something interesting is that this cave does have like statues of like female musicians, except they're actually playing like classical music. So like now it's not only in her head, like she hears this out loud, which I do think if she's using the classical music to like get out of her head or whatnot to like disassociate, I do think it's a good thing that now she can hear and it's not just in her head, but we'll see. But in this chapter, we learned that humans take 8 weeks to heal from a single broken bone, 21 days to go without food, and 10 days without sleep, and only 3 days without water. We learned Spartans will live forever. They can heal their bones in 2 weeks. They can go 60 days without food, 30 days without sleep, and in 2 weeks without a single drop of water. But they do say because they're not full-on Spartans yet, and they're 19, they're not their full power. But it makes me think, is there like a middle ground that she is doing? Because she clearly has gone a lot of time. They said, I think like 80% of her bones had been broken at one point or something like that. So like
this thing, I don't think she's middle ground. I think she's beyond the parameters.
Oh, interesting. I was like, ooh, like she's clearly past human, but is she Sparta? But I like that you're saying she's past Spartan too.
Yeah.
I love that
she's
actually.
She's beyond the known parameter. but she
Yeah.
doesn't even have awareness of it because there's so much of her life and like what she's lived and like and that disassociation that like she doesn't get it, you know.
That's
Also,
true.
that like 30-day without water thing instantly made me thirsty, and I'm like, y'all are 100% premature aging. If you are not drinking water for a month, like you are beef jerky. No. Yeah, water break.
Let me drink some water while we say that. You're honestly, good point. They're God, so whatever, or they're immortal. But this, now that you said that, that made me think to when she like fractured her wrist in the beginning of the book when the foster dad tied her up, but she was still like, that was hours later, and her wrists were fractured, but she could like move them and everything more than or broke it, whatever. So your good point. Maybe she is way above that. I like didn't put that together. But they'll find out while they're in this school for these 2 weeks. It's essentially a huge mental test. So they're not allowed to eat while they're in school. They're not allowed to sleep while they're in school. They're not allowed to bathe while they're in school. They're only allowed to sleep if they're like seconds from death. So she essentially just has to like work, study, work out, go up hills, do life threatening shit, study. But again, this is kind of Alexis's life. Like, she may not do the physical stuff, but she's used to just like having the bare
Mhm.
minimum, going to school and studying. So she
Yep.
does have like a slight advantage in all this. We learned that in the cave, there's like 5 doors. There's the sleeping quarters, which is pretty much just a small room with like a cot on the floor. And essentially, they're not to use that room at all. If they do, it's a sign of weakness. There's a bathroom, a disgusting bathroom, but they can use the bathroom there. There's a classroom, which the classroom has the bare minimum, but they are expected to spend most of their time in the classroom. Then there's the library, which is absolutely gorgeous. They say like it's beautiful. They have muses in there. They're essentially like the librarians. The last door will lead them to like the animal tunnel, which they'll pick out their animal protector in September. It's currently July, so they have no use for that. And while they're in school, they're going to have 3 professors, which is different and weird because they normally only have one. But this year, their professors are going to be General Pine, then General Augustus, and General Karen. I didn't say this before because I knew we were going to touch upon it then, but the Fate had said earlier that, like, you need to make Augustus and Karen professors. So this is the Crucible. They're meant to help Alexis in some way, shape, or form. Then we bring up Medusa again for like 2 seconds. And so clearly Medusa's important, which makes me again believe that Alexis is Medusa's daughter because she's like, Medusa's just brought up randomly. Like, there's like no way, shape, like she's just like brought up. And then it's like 2 sentences and then left. And I'm like, she's important. General Pine begins to teach class. And Alexis seems to actually be enjoying this because she's learning new things and she genuinely does like to learn. But during class, General Pine asks like a student, one of the other boys, he gets the question wrong. So his mentor is summoned. His mentor is pissed. And their punishment for him getting the question wrong is that everyone has to do like run up a mountain and come back, aka a circuit. So she is not made for this. But she also thinks to herself, thank God my mentors were not called because they would be assholes. And so while they like go up this mountain, Nyx refuses to absolutely be left behind. And she's pretty much like, no, you're going to carry me. Nyx to go up the mountain. And again, I think this just reinforces my belief that Nyx is the animal of Medusa.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, her making her carry her up the mountain is making her stronger at the end of the day. Like, she struggles terribly, but she's about to be put into a quote unquote Hunger Game at the end of this. She's gonna have to fight for her life. So she's gonna have to be used to running because she's not used to running, right? She's not strong,
Yeah.
she's not nutrition. Like, she's gonna have to get used to running with her weight and shit on her. So I do think this is Nyx's way of being like, no, bitch, you're carrying me up this mountain with you. So get
Yeah.
to it.
But part of the consideration of that also is like whatever direction it is that Nyx is following, right? So
That
if
is
Nyx has been given the direction from Medusa of like, do not leave my daughter's side in any circumstance,
that's true.
right? So, you know, it's being seen as Nyx is like, no, I'm not going to leave you, or like, no, you can't leave me
I do,
behind. But it
yeah.
could also just be Nyx being like, if I stay at the bottom of this mountain, Medusa's going to find out and I'm in deep shit.
Yeah, I agree. I do think I do think so. Nyx is definitely there. I do think Nyx like loves because it's been 19 years at this, or not 19 because they found her whatever 10 years, I guess.
Yeah,
I
like
do
10
think
years.
love her, but like she's definitely following orders. to protect Alexis essentially at all costs because she's like literally threatens, "I'll bite whoever you want me to bite."
Uh-huh.
So next chapter, so now they're just like up the mountain. So next chapter, it's called The Crucible and it's Alexis chapter still. Like while she was up there, the men were making fun of her because she's a woman. She like couldn't keep up. Like she was barely keeping up. But they're coming down and then she meets Crystal, which is one of Zeus's heir. And he tries to befriend Alexis because he's like, I think we're half siblings because we all think you're the house of Zeus. So like he's pretty much like, let's form an alliance. And Lex is like, I already have a brother. I don't need a brother. Don't touch me. You're a jerk. And like literally is instantly turned off by him. And she's just not trying to be friendly. So once they get down the mountain, the next task that they have to complete is they have to cross the river Sinks. And now we meet Karen. And Karen, remember, he's one of the professors that has to be there.
Hmm.
Um, he is the ferryman, and AKA for people who like don't remember the ferryman in Greek mythology, the ferryman is the one who carried souls who like died. You had to have gold in your mouth or whatever, but he's the one who like led you to the underworld or at least let your soul cross over, right? So he's currently on a boat. He's fulfilling the ferryman's duty during the crucible for the initiates. And apparently, Karen also does not have animal protectors. So interesting. So as they start swimming across the river, Crystal like starts to like he's starting to drown. He's like foaming at the mouth, and Alexis is trying to help him. She's feeling like guilty. She's like, "Oh my god, he was just trying to be my friend," but like Crystal is just trying to get like away from her. He's like pushing her down. He's literally like trying to get away from her. So now we
Okay,
know.
but the way that Alexis explains it isn't like that. Alexis explains it as he took me under the water. Like I got to a point that I couldn't help him because he was endangering my own survival,
I
which is
will give
how which is how
not
all of these situations get described to us by Alexis.
yes. Alexis is an unreliable narrator when it comes to when people fool me at the mouth. She's a very unreliable narrator because
Mhm.
she's like, I have to get up to I'm trying to save him, but he's pushing me down. She does say all that. Pretty much she gets up to the surface. Her half brother is or quote, because it's not really her. I'm 90% sure it's not her half brother. Is quote is trying to get there, but something is overtaking him. And she's like, then the ferryman, aka Karen, is like coming closer. So she's like, fuck. Nyx is like, girl, get out of this water. Like, we can't be in this goddamn water. So Alexis just goes and swims back to shore. It doesn't say this, but I'm assuming that Karen takes the soul. Like, it's done.
Mhm.
That's literally the job. Another person has now died. So now when they swim across, they now have to start their new classes. But the general says, let me be clear, no one should be killing each other. My job is to weed out the weak. So like no one should be killing each other. Like they can't prove that Alexis did anything, but just to be sure, they're like, no one should be using their powers or doing anything. So once they get back,
Also, when that is said though, Alexis is like right the way that Alexis narrates that to us,
that is true.
it's
Yeah.
like she doesn't really get what he's talking about. Like who did what to who,
Hmm.
right?
She
She's
did.
like,
You're
I
right.
was over here trying to save my friend. I don't have any awareness of people using their powers against each other.
Yeah.
She isn't comprehending. And at first, us as the readers, we aren't comprehending. Like, girl, they are talking about you. The call is coming from inside the house, right? It's not
Yes.
until we get it's not until we get to the next chapter that then I was like, uh-huh,
Well,
uh-huh,
I
yes.
think we get the full story because I do think as readers, we know she has some power and we know and when she feels super threatened and not like it has to be super threatened for her life because remember, she was getting her ass beat by her foster parents and all this, and she wasn't using her powers all the time. So it definitely is when she feels someone she loves is in danger, or she really
Yeah.
feels that like she's about to be taken out. I think is when it comes out. So like her power only comes out in like dire situations that she doesn't know. So I do think we
Which
got that as a reader. But I agree with you.
yeah,
Not until the next chapter do we really get more information on it because we get it from another point of view and not Alexis' point of view.
yeah.
So
And
I agree with
honestly,
you.
like what you're describing with like Alexis and like when the power comes out, right? And like and she went through all of this shit with the foster caretakers, which it drove me nuts that she called them mother and father, but like
Hmm.
whatever, for continuity of the story I get it. But I was like realistically she would not be calling them that. But
Yeah.
I'll let it go until this moment. um, but the fact that the power like wasn't coming out in those things, like people draw their own arbitrary lines in their lives, right? And oftentimes in people who are abused, there's this line that's drawn of like, well, it's officially this when this thing happens, or like, right? Like you build these scenarios where it's like, okay, well, when this happens, it's abuse. And when this happens, it warrants this kind of reaction or something like that. The rest of it is just like, how do I survive being around this unsafe person? Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
But then maybe your arbitrary line is like, well, when this unsafe person punches me in the face, now it's abuse. Right. And
That
she
is
did
true.
that. She did that with those foster caretakers. And she does that repeatedly throughout the story of
Yeah.
like, this is bad, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
you know.
Nope, I
So her
agree.
power definitely has something to do with sort of like an arbitrary line that she's
Mhm.
drawing that she has no awareness of.
Nope, none. She's just doing shit. I agree. She doesn't know. They're back in class, and now Augustus is going to come and teach them. So now they're there, and Augustus' animal protector, I think is hilarious, is a raccoon. And this raccoon is just like chilling, playing with like his man braid, twirling around. And it looks like I just want to cuddle with this raccoon.
Yeah.
Augustus asked, like, and remember, Augustus' little sister is Helen. And Helen is supposed to be, again, Greek mythology. She's the one, the face that launched 1,000 ships. She's the whole reason for the Trojan War. Like, so Augustus in this is just very protective over Helen. And so when, they're in the classroom, Augustus like asks Alexis, like, do you think it's okay for women to participate in the crucible? And she doesn't know what to say. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, well, now you're not thinking of the future. And so, like, we already have a fertility issue. And now you just want every other heiress to, like, be in here. But again, he's thinking of his sister because they can say, because she's not 19 yet, she's not over the age of 19. She's like, I think she was 8 before, so she might be like 16 now. Like, they could still decide to throw Helen into this. And he's just like thinking of his little sister at this point. He's like,
Right.
you're not thinking of the generation like after you, like you're an asshole for that. And she doesn't know. Alexis is like, I was thrown into this. Like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. But it makes Augustus seem like an asshole, but he really is just trying to protect women, aka his sister. Is he trying to protect every woman? I don't know, but he is trying to protect his younger sister.
Right.
And so then after 2 hours of like Latin class, because the class is taught in Latin, Augustus asks Alexa like a question, and thankfully she technically gets it correct. She doesn't answer it the way he wants her to answer it, but she technically does answer
Right.
it correct.
Right.
So no mentors have to come. There's no other like circuit they have to do, and so then they're allowed to go to the library to like study. But like she like goes to the library, she goes to the fire, and the chapter ends with and then darkness hit. I'm assuming she fell asleep. She's not supposed to fall asleep. So interesting to see what happens. The next chapter, the last chapter we're going to cover, we finally get a new point of view. So we get a Karen point of view. And this is chapter 10, Torture, Karen, a few hours earlier. So now we're in the boat with Karen as the initiates are swimming across the river Styx. So this is right before anyone dies. And so Karen is pissed that he's here because the Federation forced him to work the Crucible this year, a decision that made no sense for him to make. Turns out Karen actually does have an animal protector. He not has one, but he has two, but they're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
So just like and I'm trying to see really quickly is Karen and Medusa would technically be brother and sister. So, or half brother and sister. So I really do think, again, it makes me believe that Medusa really is Alexis's mom because no one else can see his animal protectors, only him. She calls them Hell and Hound because they're two hellhounds. So he's just like, no one can see them anyways. It doesn't matter. But they start barking, and the only time they really bark is when they like feel threatened. And the only time they really bark around like people is with Augustus, clearly because they say, well, territorial issues. Clearly, Karen and Augustus are fucking. Clearly, they're fucking. Um, so start barking at something in the water, and Karen goes to see, and they're barking at Alexis. They're not barking at anyone else. And Karen starts to get like, oh, and then Karen starts to realize Alexis is killing her quote unquote half brother, Christo.
Mhm.
Um, and so she does have powers. It is now confirmed. We were thinking about it before, but now we know for sure she does have powers. She just doesn't know she has these powers. And
Yeah, it
Karen,
took someone else explaining to us what was going on in the water for it to be like, "Oh, this is her power."
yeah.
Yeah.
And Karen is a hunter. Like that is like who he is. Like that's like his god power. Like he likes to kill things. He's a hunter. And so he's literally getting turned on as uh Crystal's just like dying in this water. To the point he needs to fix his pants. So do with that as you will. To each their own. People get turned on for many different reasons. Well, we also
I gotta say though, when he said that, when he was like, "I had to like undo my belt," I'm like, "Girl, are you like, do you not dress to a side? Are you pushing your penis up against your
I
belly
think
and
so.
holding it
I
there with your
most
belt?"
I feel like most smutty books, like that's just like the way that the men readjust themselves. I think that's just like a common thing that like is written, but maybe not. But yeah,
I guess, but that was my first thought was like, dude, you belt your penis to your belly when you get dressed? Like,
uh, no, I think yeah, I think
what?
that's just how it's just described that he had to readjust himself because he's getting too hard
Yeah.
for his pants. But we find out though this is not the first time Karen has seen Alexis. Turns out he is the raspy voice. I thought it was Achilles. I was wrong. Turns out he is the raspy voice. He was the one who was taking care of Alexis, making sure she was eating. And then
Mhm.
remember, Alexis was like, I feel something intriguing with this guy. I feel this because Karen is very intrigued by Alexis. Like she doesn't make sense to him, and that is what's turning him on. He's like, you're essentially like an oxymoron. Like you're supposed to be the daughter of Zeus or whatever, but like you're like you have dark in you, and he is loving it. And so now he's very happy that he's part of these games. And he can't wait to see like what's gonna happen. That is the end of the chapter. So, how'd you like the extra stuff to chapter 10?
Yeah, I mean, once it started getting, like, going a little bit more, right, then I was like, "Okay, okay, I see where this is
Yeah,
going."
that's every.
Yeah. Early chapters, like, I did have a lot of frustrations with the way that the Alexis character was written, and it was just sort of like, "Okay, come on."
Okay.
Um, and then, like, once we got further in and kind of all of that, like, introductory explanation actually started to come into play in the story, I was like, "Alright, now we're really getting moving." But I feel like when we got to the scene kind of in like of what we're covering, like the mid chapter area with the doctor, that was when stuff really started to progress and take off and
Yeah.
speed along. I did find it personally somewhat irritating that it took getting to the first male narrator for there to be like filth, right?
Mm,
Like it took getting to the first male narrator for someone to speak in a sexual way, even though the way in which he did it was like, okay, buddy, I get it. Like, this is
mm.
such a trope, but
Well, I
fine.
think though the reason why I do get your point. I have not read past this. I do think honestly by chapter 20, I'm probably gonna read it. I'm gonna try to read with as I do the podcast. There will become a part as in every book where I won't be able to put it down. I do think it'll probably be maybe like chapter 20-ish or something. I'm just gonna like read through it and I'll know everything. But I do think the reason why they're also waiting is because Alexis has she has trust issues, which she should. I think it's gonna take Karen to even sway her because clearly something is gonna happen between her and the duel as well. And right now she just doesn't trust the duel, and the duel they don't trust her. Like they need a middle person to do it. And I think Karen is gonna be that person that like brings everyone together. So I think that's why we have to wait for his character
Oh.
because her wall is too far up with them with the duel, and the duel's walls are also way too far up to like just be brought down.
See, I
Like,
was kind of
after these
thinking,
2 they might have some respect for her because they think she's gonna die in these 2 weeks, but, like,
yeah,
they think she's this rich person who's lived somewhere who is so weak, like, it's gonna take a lot for them to, like, trust her with anything.
I was kind of thinking that the triangle would be a little bit different and that
Oh,
it would be Karen is clearly, from what we know from the story, more of the initiator, more of the pursuer, that, clearly says, like, I'm going to ravage her,
yeah.
right? So much more, as far as the story goes, dominant in that role, right? Whereas with the, oh my God, I was about to say the twins. They aren't twins.
The
Um,
duo. I know who you meant.
yeah, with the duo, right, there was that notion of like, okay, well, he's respecting her boundaries, right? So like
Mm,
maybe he's not such a bad guy. So I'm fully expecting Alexis to get caught up in that. That there will
gotcha.
continue to be moments of like, oh, he has care or concern for me, and I'm going to, because I don't know any better, because I haven't been through these relationships before, that's going to trick me into having like feelings for this
Oh,
person.
no, I think that honestly will I do think a part of it will happen because she's so innocent, she doesn't know. So I think that's also a good
Yeah.
point to bring. I do think, yeah.
So I suspect we're going to get a little bit of like a like, oh my God, this obvious horn dog is just constantly trying to fuck me and I don't want to because I think this guy over here is nice. And really it's like, yo, everybody's just a horn dog trying to fuck you. Like either get into it or don't.
I agree with that, but I also agree once she realizes, because she's at some point gonna realize this is her power, I think it's gonna make her a new person. I think she's gonna be more open to like things because she's gonna realize she is the darkness. Because right now she's like, oh,
Yeah.
Father John, and I can't kill, and I think once she realizes that like there's two sides, because here's the next thing you have to understand: Hades is considered bad, but like we do need death. Like that is just the way of
Yeah.
life. Like everything that grows needs to die. So like I do think when she accepts this part of darkness in her and realizes that she can still be her with the darkness, I do think she's gonna like blossom into like this other thing. But
I kind of suspect that Karen is going to be the one who helps her put together what her power is.
oh, I want the because he's the only one who's seen it. I 1000% believe
Right.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But before we go, I end every episode with a sassy topic. We have a little bit of a sassy conversation. Though honestly, we were thinking so much with this whole podcast. So who knows if we need a sassy? 'Cause we were bringing all types of shit in. But um, it- for this, in these first 10 chapters, we have this idea of mutt, which is half human, half Spartan. It's like that's what's introduced to us. How does this hybrid identity create tension with Alexis? But more importantly, does it mirror any real world belongingness, like in our real world outside of fantasy, right? Like, how does this world mutt relate to it? What do you think? Go.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a choice in the writing, right? It's
Mhm.
designed to be derogatory, without using any like more modern terms that usually get associated with like racial disparity and like terms of bias and that sort of thing. So I think it was a good choice because it's something that like we quickly understand and it's not specific to like any particular sort of bias or thing like that, right? And we immediately understand that it's insulting. Um, I do think it's interesting, like kind of the way that it gets used a little bit later, especially like with conversation amongst like Zeus and Hades of like, the introduction. And um, I think what we're going to see is that because like with Olympian houses, like breeding with humans is so much more common that we're going to see kind of two different attitudes go on in the book. And I think that's probably going to, in some way, shape, or form, like change how Alexis identifies with being called mutt. I
Gotcha.
I'm hopeful for that, right? Because right now she's just sort of like learning that this is who she is,
Mhm.
and I'd like to think that as she progresses a little bit further, she will have a problem with it,
Mhm. Well,
and
I
I
don't
don't know
think
what
she's
she's
full on
gonna
mutt, but
do
yeah.
about that.
I love that. For me, okay, so I would be a quote unquote mutt, I guess technically, because I'm Black and Puerto Rican. So I guess I would be a quote unquote mutt. So we're relating this to the book. I actually think it's very interesting, like you said, to use the word mutt because seems so negative in the book. However, the one thing we learn repeatedly is that there's a fertility issue and they need mutts essentially to keep the Olympian bloodline going, even if it's not full amount. So it's just very interesting that like everyone is like, oh, you're an abandoned mutt. You're just a mutt. You're like a nobody. But it's like that's literally right now the only way that they can reproduce and even continue their bloodline. So it's like it's a need for survival, but it has such a negative connotation to it. So
Oh, you mean
love
like how immigrants make it happen?
oh, 1000%. Yes.
Yeah,
We would be
yeah,
nowhere without immigrants. I would like to just say that right now. We would be
right,
no without them. Like,
right. And
um,
but that's been a story throughout the ages, right? Of colonization and
mhm,
slavery and like all
mhm,
of that. Like it's one of those things that like when you really start to get into it, it's like, oh, this is bigger than just, you know, calling this character a derogatory term, right?
yeah.
Especially because it comes from places that like we know and that we live
Mhm,
that we can put to it
yeah.
and relate to it.
And I'm a child of the 90s. I may not look like I am. Technically, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. I know I don't look it. Black don't crack. But when I was younger, it was not cool to be mixed. Like, I just want that to be very clear. It was not, even though I'm mixed with two minorities, and we could even say Puerto Rican has black, like, or black is Puerto Rican. Like, we could even go down a whole rabbit hole and that whole thing. It was
Right.
not cool for me to be Puerto Rican, and it was not cool for me to be half Puerto Rican or half black. Like, I grew up in a time where that was not cool. I walk outside and it is so cool now to like be mixed and do all this, but that's like not the world I grew up in. So
Yeah.
I find like reading this like this very interesting because it's like in the year 2025, not that everyone accepts it, but it is widely more accepted than it was when I was 10 years old. Like being
Yeah.
honest, when I was 5, when I was this, like we were in a completely different time then, a completely different generation. So I am interested to see how like this is going to come along in the book, especially because they need mutts to survive. So it's just very interesting. Yeah.
I do wonder if it's going to be addressed in the book because I think part of what you're talking about, where like, where you're talking about like childhood and kind of like what the mentality is
Yeah.
at now, I think part of it is because people are more able to talk about it and people are more
Yes.
able to have conversations about the fact of like, I didn't know where I fit. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
know which family members I fit with or which culture I was supposed to identify with, right? And so people have had more of those conversations. And so not only is there awareness of it like within your community, but also within white people, right?
Yeah.
So I think it would require the book having some sort of a conversation about that, right?
Mhm.
And I think as far as the book is currently set up, you would be reliant on Zeus for that.
Yeah. Oh, that good point. We'll see.
But also,
We'll
Zeus be
see.
fucking everybody, so it should be his
It is.
conversation to have.
He
I'm like, you're
does.
you're the one making all of these Spartan mutts. Like, come on, dude, have the chit chat, have the chit
Oh
chat.
my God. Yes. Yes. Okay. I love it. Well, that's all we have time for. We'll definitely continue next time for the next 10 chapters. Do you have any quick theories you wanted to tell me or anything? What do you think? I think we talked about Medusa. I was
I
just
think
like,
we kind of already did them.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we already did them.
yeah. So we're good. Well, I have a little bit left. We have to go I have to change because we have our cocktail competition. Again,
Yeah,
I'm going to drink. Danielle's a judge, so she actually has to be like, you know, there are notes or there's this or there's this. I'm there for a good
yeah. I
time.
have to drink 6 cocktails and then talk about them.
Yeah.
You get to
Yeah.
just show up and drink them.
Yeah. And put a marble in the one that I think was the best. So I love where I am. But thank you, Danielle. We will talk again next week. But cheers. See ya.
Cheers. I have left this coffee, so coffee cheers.